Let's be honest. The moment she starts pulling back, your chest tightens, your mind races. You wonder what you did wrong, what you said wrong, who she might be talking to instead. And right there, in that uncomfortable silence, most men panic. They chase clarity. They push for reassurance. They try to close the distance as fast as possible. But here's the truth you were never taught and probably never wanted to hear. When a woman truly loves you, there are moments she will deliberately ignore you. And it has nothing to do with cruelty, games, or losing interest. It has everything to do with how female attraction actually survives over time. I need you to listen to this without ego, without fear, and without the old stories you've been telling yourself. Women don't experience emotional connection the same way men do. A man often bonds through presence and consistency. A woman bonds through emotional contrast. If everything feels predictable, always available, always confirmed, her nervous system goes quiet. And quiet in this context doesn't mean peace, it means boredom. Attraction doesn't grow in certainty, it grows in tension that feels safe. When she ignores you, even briefly, she's often not punishing you. She's regulating herself. She's creating space to feel. Space allows anticipation. Anticipation allows desire. Desire keeps love alive. This is why the men who are constantly doing everything right are often the ones she slowly loses emotional intensity for. They remove mystery. They remove polarity. They remove the very friction that keeps her emotionally engaged. You were probably raised to believe that love means constant attention. Immediate replies, always checking in, always proving you care. That belief makes sense, but it's incomplete. Female psychology doesn't respond to non-stop reassurance the way male psychology does. In fact, too much emotional availability too fast can make her feel overwhelmed, even trapped, without her consciously understanding why. So, her system pulls back. She goes quiet. She delays. She ignores. And here's the part that hurts the most for men to accept. If she didn't care, she wouldn't need to ignore you at all. Indifference is effortless. Silence with emotional weight is not. Silence with tension means you matter. It means your presence is strong enough that she needs distance to recalibrate how she feels about you. This doesn't mean you should disappear, manipulate, or play cold games. That's weakness disguised as strategy. The difference between a grounded man and an anxious man is not how much attention he gives, but how he handles space. A grounded man doesn't chase silence. He respects it. He remains centered inside it. And that calm confidence sends a message louder than 100 texts ever could. Right now, understand this. Her ignoring you is not the end of the story. It's the mirror. And what you do in that silence reveals whether you are a man she can emotionally lean into or one she will eventually outgrow. When she goes quiet, most men make the same fatal mistake. They assume the silence is about them, their worth, their attractiveness, their value. So they react from fear. They send the extra message. They explain themselves when no explanation was asked for. They try to fix a problem that doesn't actually exist. And in doing so, they collapse the emotional tension she needed in the first place. Here's what's really happening beneath the surface. A woman who is emotionally invested doesn't just feel love, she feels vulnerability. Love opens her. Vulnerability makes her feel exposed. And when that exposure becomes intense, her instincts tell her to slow things down internally. Silence becomes a form of emotional self-protection, not rejection. Think about this carefully. If she truly didn't care, she wouldn't feel the need to regulate anything. She would simply drift away without friction. But when feelings are real, her emotional system looks for balance. That balance often comes from distance. Distance allows her to regain control over her emotions without cutting you off completely. This is why chasing her in these moments backfires. When you rush to fill the silence, you remove her opportunity to process desire. You turn emotional intensity into emotional pressure. Pressure suffocates attraction. Calm, confidence nourishes it. A man who understands this doesn't disappear or become cold. He stays present without intruding. He doesn't demand emotional labor from her when she's internally recalibrating. And paradoxically, that restraint makes her feel safer, not less valued. Safety in female psychology is not about constant access. It's about emotional reliability without neediness. There's another layer most men miss. Silence also tests leadership, not in a manipulative way, but in an energetic one. She's unconsciously observing how you handle uncertainty. Do you crumble when you don't have control? Do you seek validation to stabilize your emotions, or do you remain grounded, steady, and self-directed regardless of her immediate attention? A woman doesn't fall deeply for a man who needs her to be emotionally okay. She falls for a man who is emotionally okay with or without her reassurance. That doesn't mean he doesn't care. It means he is whole. When you respond to her silence with self-respect, something powerful happens inside her. The emotional tension doesn't disappear, it sharpens. She begins to wonder what you're doing, how you're feeling, why you're not chasing, and curiosity quietly replaces overwhelm. This is where attraction either deepens or dies, not in the words you send, but in the emotional posture you hold. Silence exposes insecurity, but it also gives strength room to show itself, so the next time she ignores you, don't rush to interpret it as loss, interpret it as a moment of truth. Because how you move in that quiet space is teaching her exactly how to feel about you, without either of you ever saying a word. There's a dangerous misunderstanding men carry about consistency. You've been told that showing up the same way every day without variation proves commitment. But attraction doesn't respond to logic. It responds to emotional experience. And emotional experience needs rhythm, rise and fall, presence and absence, connection and space. When a woman truly loves you, she doesn't want to consume you. She wants to feel you. And feeling requires contrast. If you're always available, always responsive, always emotionally open on demand, you become emotionally predictable. Predictability creates safety. Yes, but without polarity, safety turns into emotional flatness. And emotional flatness is where desire slowly fades. Her ignoring you is often her subconscious attempt to restore polarity. She's creating a moment where your presence can be felt again. This is why after periods of distance, conversations often feel deeper, more charged, more alive. Nothing changed externally. The space did the work. Most men sabotage this by trying to force continuity. They treat love like a fragile object that will break if not constantly handled. But strong connection doesn't shatter in silence. Weak connection does, and that's an uncomfortable truth. There's also a biological layer here that rarely gets discussed. Female attraction is deeply tied to emotional stimulation. Emotional stimulation comes from unpredictability within safety. Not chaos, not coldness, but a sense that you are a man with his own gravity, his own direction, his own emotional center. When she ignores you and sees that you don't lose your center, something registers. You are not dependent on her attention to feel whole. That independence doesn't push her away. It draws her in because it signals strength, maturity, and emotional leadership. Contrast this with the man who spirals, who reads meaning into every delay, who sends paragraphs to regain connection. That energy feels heavy. It feels like responsibility. And attraction does not grow where a woman feels responsible for regulating a man's emotions. Another truth most men resist. Her silence is often when attraction is working hardest. While you're sitting in uncertainty, she's feeling, remembering, imagining, measuring how she feels in your absence. Desire often clarifies itself in space, not presence. This doesn't mean you withdraw affection or become emotionally unavailable. It means you allow silence to exist without punishing it or chasing it. You let her come back emotionally on her own terms. And when she does, the connection feels earned, not forced. A man who understands this stops fearing the quiet. He uses it to reconnect with his own life, his own purpose, his own direction. And that self-respect is felt even when no words are exchanged. Because the truth is, the strongest attraction doesn't come from being constantly seen. It comes from being deeply felt. And sometimes being felt requires absence. There's a moment every man faces where silence feels like abandonment, even when it isn't. This is where old emotional wounds get activated. Past rejections, times you weren't chosen, moments you felt invisible. Her ignoring you doesn't just trigger the present, it echoes the past. And if you're not aware of this, you start reacting to history instead of reality. Women are highly sensitive to emotional undercurrents. She may not consciously analyze your behavior, but she feels it. When you react from fear, she feels pressure. When you react from self-rust, she feels stability. And stability is the foundation that allows her to relax into love. Here's the truth most men avoid. A woman doesn't want to feel like your emotional lifeline. She wants to feel like your companion. There's a critical difference. When your sense of peace depends on her responsiveness, you quietly transfer emotional responsibility onto her. That responsibility feels heavy even if she can't articulate why. Silence becomes her instinctive escape from that weight. So when she ignores you, it's often her way of stepping out of a role she never asked to play, not because she doesn't care, but because caring too deeply for someone who is emotionally dependent feels unsafe. Emotional dependence creates imbalance, and imbalance kills attraction. A grounded man understands this and uses silence as a mirror, not a threat. He asks himself, am I centered in my own life right now, or am I waiting for her attention to feel okay? That question alone can change everything. Another layer is respect. Not the loud, aggressive kind, the quiet kind. When you don't chase silence, you communicate that you respect her autonomy and your own boundaries. That respect allows her to trust you more, not less. Trust deepens attraction. Control destroys it. And here's something subtle, but powerful. When you stay calm during her silence, you show emotional leadership. Leadership doesn't mean dominance. It means emotional steadiness. When uncertainty appears, she may not say it out loud, but part of her is asking, can I trust this man when things aren't perfectly clear? Your response answers that question. Many men believe love should feel constantly warm and affirming. In reality, real love breathes. It expands and contracts. It moves between closeness and distance naturally. When you fight that rhythm, you create friction. When you flow with it, you create harmony. If you've ever noticed that she comes back more affectionate after space, this is why. Space resets emotional intensity. It reminds her of your value without you needing to advertise it. Your absence does the work your words never could. This doesn't mean you suppress your emotions or pretend not to care. It means you regulate yourself instead of outsourcing that regulation to her. Self-regulation is one of the most attractive traits a man can develop. Silence, when handled with strength, doesn't weaken connection, it refines it. And the man who understands this stops fearing distance and starts becoming someone a woman can emotionally return to again and again. Here's the part most men never hear. Attraction isn't built on attention. It's built on challenge. Not hardship, not cruelty, but subtle challenge, emotional contrast, polarity. When a woman truly loves you, she will test your emotional gravity without saying a word. Ignoring you is one of the most powerful forms of that test. It's not about punishment. It's about measuring your consistency under tension. Think of it like a pendulum. Your presence is one side. Her withdrawal is the other. The swing between them creates emotional energy. That energy fuels desire, fascination, even obsession. Men who panic and chase break the pendulum. Men who stay grounded allow the rhythm to naturally pull her back towards them, stronger and more emotionally invested. Understand this. She doesn't need to talk to you every second for her love to exist. Real love survives absence. Real desire thrives in space, but it also requires a man who can handle that absence without collapsing internally. She's silently observing. Does he crumble? Does he complain? Or does he continue living, growing, being a man with his own direction and purpose? Most men confuse love with dependence. They believe constant attention equals emotional safety. But in female psychology, love and desire often need restraint. Too much certainty too fast kills excitement. Too much availability dilutes the energy that keeps her emotionally hooked. So when she ignores you, it's often her way of preserving that spark, not losing it. Here's a deeper truth. Women feel love with complexity, not simplicity. Their emotions are layered, nuanced, and sometimes contradictory. She might ignore you while thinking about you intensely. She might distance herself while feeling a strong emotional pull toward you. The man who understands this doesn't overinterpret. He doesn't react impulsively. He observes, reflects, and stays grounded. Silence is also a lesson in patience and self-mastery. It forces you to confront your own attachment patterns, your need for validation, your fear of loss. The men who master these moments transform not just their relationships, but their entire sense of self. They stop giving their emotional power away. They become men who women want to return to, not because they're needy, but because they're magnetic. And here's the ultimate paradox. The more you can remain steady in her absence, the more she feels drawn to you. The more she senses your value independent of her attention, the more intense her desire becomes. Ignoring you temporarily isn't rejection. It's a silent invitation to rise, to embody the man she can't stop thinking about, the man she respects, craves, and eventually loves more deeply than she thought possible. Now, understand this. Emotional mastery is not about manipulation, it's about alignment. Being fully present in your life while she navigates her own emotional waves. Being a man who doesn't collapse under silence, but instead uses it to grow, to strengthen attraction, and to become indispensable in her emotional world. This is where most men fail, and where the truth of female psychology quietly rewards those who understand it. When she ignores you, it's not a loss. It's a litmus test for your confidence, your self-respect, and your emotional intelligence. And those who pass never just get her attention, they get her desire, her respect, and her heart. The final truth most men refuse to accept is that love and attention are not the same thing. When she ignores you, it's not a signal to chase, beg, or prove yourself. It's a signal to reflect, to strengthen, and to hold your ground. The men who panic miss this entirely. The men who master it unlock something far rarer: magnetic, unshakable attraction. Think about it. She's watching your energy, your reactions, your self-possession, even when you think she isn't. Every delayed reply, every subtle pullback is her unconscious way of gauging whether you are a man of stability or a man of need. And neediness destroys desire faster than any rejection ever could. When you remain composed, she doesn't just respect you. She feels drawn to the part of you that doesn't bend. The part that exudes certainty and confidence. That energy is irresistible. Here's something most men don't realize. Emotional tension fuels connection. It's not discomfort, it's depth. When she ignores you, she's creating a space where her feelings can intensify without interference. Desire doesn't grow in certainty, it grows in contrast. She needs moments where she notices your value without your constant reassurance. She needs moments where her curiosity is activated, and silence, handled correctly, does exactly that. Do not mistake this for emotional games. This is not about making her chase you. It's about honoring the natural rhythm of attraction. It's about understanding female psychology on a level most men never do. That emotional intensity, when balanced with grounded presence, is what keeps love alive long after the first thrill fades. A woman can love you quietly, deeply, and intensely, yet still pull back, not out of disinterest, but because love itself is a dynamic, breathing energy that requires both closeness and space. This is why the man who truly understands this rarely loses her attention. He remains steady in her silence, unshaken by delayed texts or social media pauses. He focuses on his growth, his mission, his life, and paradoxically, the very absence he allows her creates the magnetic pull that makes her come back with more desire, curiosity, and emotional investment than ever. She doesn't just return to you. She comes back craving the emotional contrast that only you can provide. Before we end, I want you to reflect deeply. Ask yourself, am I a man who can hold my center when she pulls away, or do I crumble in fear? That question alone will determine whether your relationships survive or slowly fade into predictability. Here's your personal exercise. Calculate the number of hours you spend chasing attention versus building yourself. Write the answer in the comments. Let's see who's mastering presence versus pursuing validation. Like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend who needs to hear this. Your future relationships depend on understanding this truth, and sharing it is the first step to becoming the man women feel magnetically drawn. All.